All right. Well, as we learned last night, our theme for our conference is impact. Last night we dove into our impact on others, and today we're going to hear a couple testimonies of an impact that happened in their life and how God worked through that. So an impact that happened to you and how God can move and how God can further his kingdom. Our first testimony this morning is Nichole Larson. And Nichole and I have not known each other too long. We're getting to know each other, but I will tell you, the Larson family, I am learning, has so many talents. They're singing up here. They do wonderful food boards. They're just willing to serve wherever is needed. Their family serves in our church so faithfully. And Nichole is one of the most discerning people I think I have ever met. She can oftentimes come up to me on a Sunday morning or talk to me in the week, and she'll say, I saw, just in your eyes, there was just something a little different today. And it's so powerful, and it feels so good to be seen and known by someone, and she is just so good at making people feel seen and discerning what the Lord is telling her and then sharing that wisdom to others. So Nichole's going to tell us her story, and I don't know a lot about her story, so I'm excited to hear it this morning too. So come on up, Nichole.
Hello. How are you guys this morning? I'm going to pretend like I know what I'm doing. All right. So first, I would like to start by reading the verse. Oh, give thanks to the Lord, call upon his name, make known his deeds among the peoples, sing to him, sing praises to him, tell of all his wondrous works. Glory in his holy name. Let the hearts of those who seek the Lord rejoice. Seek the Lord in his strength. Seek his presence continually, and remember the wondrous works that he has done, his miracles and the judgments he uttered. That is from 1 Chronicles 16, 8 through 12. You know, we're always looking for God's will. And I think this verse right here, you could spend the rest of your life just trying to do this, right? Over the last 11 years, I've had hundreds of opportunities to share my story. Only 2 others on stage. But I love sharing this story. Honestly, I'm thankful for each time I've gotten to, because like this verse says, I get to make him known, and his deeds I get to share among the people and tell and remember the wondrous works that he has done. So I'm excited to share my story with you. I love telling it to anyone who asks, because I think it's better than a Hallmark movie. But not because of me, because it's God's story. Like Danielle said, I am Nichole Larson, and we moved here recently. We've only been here in Missouri for about 2.5 years. Before that, we were in Connecticut, and then Vegas, and California, where I grew up in Central California. I went to school in a small Baptist university in Southern California, mainly to swim and play water polo, and to get my MRS. I met my husband there. My husband's name was Dustin. He was from Las Vegas, where he grew up there. There's not many people you meet who grew up in Las Vegas, but so I was married in Las Vegas, not in a chapel on the Strip, not like the movies, and a beautiful church where he grew up. And he was actually the pastor at that, not the main pastor, but he was over missions and community pastor. And we were married for 11 years. We had 3 kids together. 2 of them were up on stage, Aubrey and Haley. And then Charlie, who used to be little, but he's taller than me now. Sorry. On Sunday, September 14th, 2014, it'll be 11 years ago next week, the kids and I and my mother-in-law, Rose, we were in California for my grandpa's funeral, and we were getting ready to head home back to Vegas when I got the call Like I said, my husband was a pastor, and his best friends called me. He didn't show up that morning, and that wasn't like him. And they knew that, so they were calling to see if I'd talked to him, and I had not. I talked to him the night before, but they were already on their way. I told them where to find the key, and I just started throwing things together and trying to get in the car, and my parents stopped me, like, no, just wait. Wait and see what they say. I knew something was wrong, but they called back, and they found him. They found him asleep. His clothes were all laid out. They said it looked like you should have just been able to wake him up. I collapsed, to say the least. Physically sick. But I collapsed into my mom's arms. I was at my mom's house. My dad was right there. My mother-in-law was there. In God's provision, we were literally in the safest place we could have been to get the worst news. Even my brother had stopped by to say goodbye to us and the kids, and he jumped in and distracted the kids while I fell apart. After a long while, I came back together. I calmed down. It was a while. But I felt God's peace come over me. Just a sense that he was in control of everything. And from that point on, I remember seeing God's hand in every detail. Jeremiah 29:11 came immediately to mind. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord. Plans to prosper you, plans and not to harm you, plans to give you a hope and a future. Then you will call on me and come and pray to me, and I will listen to you. You will seek me with all your heart, and I will be found by you. Now, the hardest part of that day was honestly, I had to tell the kids. Aubrey was just about to be 8, Haley was 6, and Charlie was 4. I wanted to tell them alone. I gathered them as close to me as I could on the bed, and boy, was that hard. Amongst the crying and the screaming and the whys and the how and I don't know how kids process. All that came to me to tell them was that God's not surprised by this. He has a plan for us. It's not what we thought, but he has a plan, and his plans are good. God's not surprised by this. I remember hating that I could not hold each of them close enough. But again, God had a plan. He had plenty of arms there. All 3 of their grandparents were right there, and they came rushing in and held them with me as we processed this. Now, how to get home? You see, the drive from Vegas to my parents was 7 hours of desert, and that sounded miserable. And my dad's a man of action, and he just started calling business associates and got a hold of one who happened to have a jet. He sent it immediately. God's provision. I mean, that was, who just sends a jet? Like, we're not those people, I promise you. Like, my dad's not in Hollywood. He's in middle California. And that jet perfectly fit us. It fit me and the kids, my mother-in-law, and my parents. And we made that journey home in 1 hour instead of the 7+ of desert drive. I remember sitting next to my mother-in-law, Rose. I don't know, some of you may have met her. She's amazing, but she hates flying and elevators and tight space. She'd lost her husband 12 years earlier and just got the news her son died, and now had to get on this plane. And she sat right next to me with her Bible open in her lap and just clinging to my hand very tightly the whole flight. The kids, on the other hand, still talk about getting to fly a jet because the pilot invited them up to the cockpit to help take it off, to help land, to help in the middle of it all. And that was such a huge blessing. God is just so good. When we landed, my husband's uncle, Fred, and Aunt Donna picked us up in the church van and drove us home. A home that could have been a place of chaos and despair and hopelessness. Instead, we drove up to a house literally overflowing with family. I mean, there are people in the streets when we got there. A home full of love. Our family, our pastor, everyone we loved in Vegas was there with comforting arms and tissue boxes everywhere. Instead of walking into a house of disorder, police, firemen, death, we walked into life, we walked into love, and we walked into hope. God had protected us from further trauma and surrounded us with his loving arms, our church family. Our house had been cleaned. My bed had been made, and they bought new sheets and new blankets, and the fridge and pantry were fully stocked. God had orchestrated this. He placed people there, specifically one friend, who knew how to take charge and give people actionable things to do to love us and to help. The next couple of days were hard. They were full of decisions, and I hate decisions. I don't know if anybody else is like that, but God's peace was on me. It was so weird. I just remember that. I wish I had that clarity now. But in that moment, his peace was on me. I could think so clearly, and I knew what I was supposed to do. It was a peace I'd never felt before. I can make those decisions confidently, but I didn't do it alone. I didn't do anything alone. I was surrounded with God's loving arms, with his community, family, and friends. I had a friend fly in from California, Susie. She was there for a week, and all she did was bathe my children every night. She'd sing songs to them and brush their hair and get them ready for bed. It seems like such a simple thing, but it was just somebody I trusted who held my kids for me while I was working on these other things. She also encouraged me to get worship music going, and that was huge, especially in my bedroom. So I got that going constantly, and that was powerful. The whole atmosphere of the house changed. It didn't seem bad before, but it was heavy, especially in our bedroom where he had passed. And it's amazing what we put up with, what we allow, when God wants to give us better. And after a few days of that music playing constantly, I opened the windows, I was singing with it. It lifted, and I could feel a difference in our room. Music continues to be a source of strength and encouragement for us. God is just so good. I remember sitting in the funeral home with my sister-in-law, my brother-in-law, and our pastor, and 3 of Dustin's best friends. They also went with me to the graveyard to pick out hard things that you never want to think about, like a gravesite and a tombstone. It was hard, but at the same time, I remember laughing about just about everything while I was crying. And if you knew my husband, he would have loved that. He was very sarcastic. But they were by my side and helped me through that. Our church continued to take care of every detail. They paid for everything. They helped with everything. They planned everything. I didn't even have to worry about what to wear. Some ladies from our Bible study group went and bought outfits for me and for each of the kids, down to accessories, so we had options to choose from. I think the ladies had fun with it. And the funeral, that day was really hard. I mean, but it was good at the same time. I felt God's arms around me. I felt strong. I felt brave and at peace. My husband was honored, and we were loved on. I've never cried, smiled, laughed, or hugged so many people in my life. People came from all over the country to be there. At one point, I looked up and there was a line out the door of people just waiting to hug me and say their condolences. I hugged so many people the next day, I was sore. Like, it took me a few hours to be like, what is wrong with my arms? Like, why? Oh, I think I hugged a lot of people yesterday. And I'm a hugger, so that filled me up. That was what I needed. The kids, on the other hand, they still talk about how much fun their dad's funeral was. I know that sounds weird. You may not get it, but they had all their best friends, their cousins, and people they love in their favorite place, which was our church. And they got to just play for hours. And we had pizza and wings because that was my husband's favorite food. So it was a great memory for them. I believe anyone who knew my kids before and in the days and weeks and months and now years after will testify with me that those kids never lost their joy. The light in their eyes never left. Sure, we cried and we missed Dad like crazy. It would hit in waves, and if you've ever grieved, that's the best way I can describe it. At first, the waves are very close together. If you've ever been to the beach, the sets come in, and it's just like boom, 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 every little thing. But slowly, they start to spread out. But we had a million questions, and what nows? But the kids always had hope. They always had that light. They always trusted the Father, and they trusted me. I knew they were watching me. How I processed this loss, this grief, this plot twist that we called it, would pour over into them. Talk about putting your faith to the test. I had to walk out everything. I had always taught them about the Father in heaven and his faithfulness. I didn't have a choice. We focused on verses like Jeremiah 29:11, like I read, Joshua 1:9, John 14:27, and Isaiah 61:1-6. I posted them around the house. We had lots of music going, lots of worship, and friends who loved out loud. Now what? How are we going to survive? Could we continue to homeschool? Could we stay in the house? And could I afford things like health insurance? And then there was the being alone. My dad just wanted us to come with him back to California so he could take care of us. But I had a peace that we were supposed to stay right there, right where God had us. Like I said before, God wasn't surprised by all of this. He had prepared me. He didn't just let this happen. He was preparing me, preparing a great many things in the background before anything happened all along. He was equipping me to walk through this. He surrounded me with amazing women who had taught me to fall more in love with him. He would teach me how to listen to him and trust his plans. And Dustin's job was the missions pastor, which would mean he'd be gone for weeks at a time. This taught me how to be more independent and forced us to prepare for the worst. Dustin was type A, and he made sure we had the best life insurance policy. He wrote out every username, every password for all our finances before every trip, made sure everything was up to date because he was going to places like Southeast Asia and Central America. Although nothing happened when he was sneaking Bibles over the Vietnam border, or in Central America. He passed peacefully in his sleep here in America. But we were prepared nonetheless. I trust the Father with that why. I trust him with the impact that had on us. I trust that he has better information than I could ever comprehend. He let me ask him why. He's big enough for that. But he showed me, he was teaching me more about the what he was doing right now, what he was teaching me, and what he wanted to do in and through me and our children. The hardest part was trusting him with that what in our children. You see, if I tried to comprehend the whys or even the what of tomorrow, I would start to drown. I don't know if anybody has anxiety or has felt that feeling before, but anytime I'd think past right now, I would immediately just couldn't breathe. So I learned really quickly to not be paralyzed, I had to stay right here, right now. I had to learn to stay in the minute, trusting him with that moment. I couldn't look ahead. I had to choose to live in and trust his grace for today. My body and my spirit only had the grace for right now. I chose to trust him with the next thing, and he strengthened me for what was right in front of me. One of my biggest fears was health insurance. We had enough money from the life insurance, but that wouldn't last forever. But the church was generous, and they kept us on health insurance for a little bit. They didn't say how long. They just said, we'll go ahead and keep you on. But that would continue to pop up, in your worry windows and all the other things, that popped up often. But each time I would just stop and pray, thank you, God, that you will take care of this. And show me what to do when that decision's at hand. I'll worry about it when I get there, and trust that you're going to show me. I'll stay in today. And so God provided moment by moment. He gave me his peace, and day by day he gave me his courage to keep going and to stay focused on him and the task at hand, which was loving these kids, being emotionally and physically present for them, not in a corner in my pain like I could have gone in a second. I had to stay right there for them. And God provided enough income through the life insurance for me to stay in our home and keep homeschooling them. I didn't even have to go back to work. I got to stay home and love on them. This was so huge. So we kept pressing on, trusting the Father for his mercies every day, and he was so faithful. Now, I loved being married. I loved it. I always wanted to be married growing up. I wanted to be a mom. I wanted to be a wife. Our marriage wasn't perfect by any means, even though I felt like it was sometimes. I knew that I loved him well. I had no regrets. I loved serving him and serving the Lord by his side. I loved having a best friend. I loved training our children together, and I did my best to respect and honor him every day. So and they say that makes grieving easier. I don't know, but I know I didn't regret anything. Now, the kids asked if I would remarry, worried about what that might look like. I blame Disney movies and evil step-parents. I told them I loved having a best friend to walk through this life with, but I could never find someone who would fit perfectly into our lives. The key word here is I. I would mess it up. I did have a list, though. I had a huge detailed list of the things this man would have to be for me and for my kids. Like, it wasn't just me anymore. I've got 3 kids who need an amazing dad. I'm not just giving them to anybody. The kids would have to adore him, and he would just have to fit perfectly into our lives. That's what I told God. I loved my family and friends, And I knew I could never walk away from my mother-in-law, Rose, my sister and brother-in-law, or all their cousins. Not to mention Dustin's best friends and my best friends and our church, the church that Dustin grew up in, the church that had stayed by our side through all of this. No, I told the kids, if I was to meet someone, he'd have to be able to just come right alongside us. I wasn't going to go looking for it. I wasn't going to veer off the path and get distracted with dating. I wasn't going to put the kids through that. They'd been through too much. I'd mess it up trying. I trusted God would do it. So I just stayed focused on him and loving my kids well. And we kept moving forward day by day. We had fun. We went on trips and visited lots of family and did the day-to-day homeschool stuff, and every field trip we could imagine, we were going. So he'd have to be quick. But a little over a year after Dustin passed, a friend called to tell me that a girl from our homeschool group's mom had passed away. Her name was Elsa. My heart sank. I couldn't stop crying. I was just heartbroken for her because we knew what she was going through. You see, I had met Elsa at PE through our homeschool group a couple months earlier. She was actually highlighted to me every week. I would spend time playing with her and playing catch and kicking the soccer ball around. She was just special. I knew it right away. I loved this girl. But I'd never met her mom or dad. My friend asked me to try and talk to him if he was at any of our events. They had tried, but they didn't know what to say. I said, of course. I loved using our story to help encourage others. Side note, that friend said she wasn't trying to hook us up. She was truly just hoping I could encourage him. But I think she was hoping. The next Friday, it was PE. I met him. That day was January 15th. It was cold. And if you've never been to Vegas in the winter, Vegas does get cold. It gets very cold, especially windy cold. He had a beanie and sunglasses on, but for some reason I just knew it had to be Elsa's dad. After PE, I went up and introduced myself and just said, I know what you're going through. His expression was that of, yeah, sure you do. Because if you've grieved, my cousin's aunt's uncle went through that, was his expression. But I said, my husband passed away a year ago. I truly know what you're going through. And we talked shortly and exchanged brief details. It was crazy how similar our stories were to each other. His wife had passed away on the 14th also, just a month after being diagnosed with breast cancer. I could tell right away, though, that he had the same hope in the Father that I did. Everyone was waiting to go to the roller rink, to homeschool skate day, after. So we said we'd talk more there. I walked in looking for him and Elsa, but didn't see him right away. Then I saw him. He wasn't hiding under a beanie and sunglasses. I could see his eyes, all those eyes. I forgot how to talk and started giggling. You see, when I talked to God about my future husband, I just had a feeling. I would just know when I looked into his eyes for the first time. Boy, did I. I just melted. We skated and talked for hours. He was incredible. I couldn't keep track of all the places he'd been and the things he'd done and how eloquently he talked. I'm still learning all the things incredible about him. But a few things stood out beside his eyes. I could tell he truly loved and trusted Jesus. Most important thing. Also, when I was praying and thinking of the type of man that would fit into our adventure, our God story, two men were highlighted to me. My best friend and college roommate's husband, who was a firefighter. He was a great guy. He loved and adored his children, and he was fun, and he loved the Lord most of all. Also, our Bible study teacher, he was a colonel in the Air Force, a pilot. Loved his family, adored his wife, and loved the Lord. Guess what I learned about Carl? He was a firefighter, and now he's a pilot. Side note to all of you unmarried ladies out there, wondering where you're going to meet a good and godly man. If God can bring a wonderful, godly man to find me, a stay-at-home mom who homeschools 3 children in Las Vegas, he can most definitely do it for you. Seek the Father and pray specifically. God's not afraid of details. He's in the details. God is so good. Because Carl was not only all of those things and way more, he came alongside us in his pain. Carl and Elsa had literally just walked through the same thing we had. And they trusted God in the same thing we did. We shared this. We both had a deep faith and trust in God's plan. And even if we didn't understand it, we trusted it. Because of this, we can still talk openly about Dustin. And Elsa and Carl talk about Sarah. And they are a part of who we are. Our kids can continue to learn and remember their parents who are in heaven. Everyone loved Carl and Elsa. Not one of my family members or my background checking friends doubted how amazing Carl was. My brothers tried to intimidate him, but they're like, nah, man, he's perfect. Our families were perfect for each other. Another detail we realized early on was that both of our spouses had lost a parent. Sarah's mom passed away just before her and Carl got married. Dustin's dad passed away just a year before we got married. This meant our in-laws, who we both loved and cared about dearly, understood what we were going through, and both of them gave us their blessing right away. In fact, my mother-in-law, Rose, she told me the day before I met him that she was praying for my future husband. I kind of shushed her because Aubrey was listening and I didn't want her to worry. But I wasn't even ready that she was ready for it. It shocked me. But today, she loves Carl like her own son, probably more than me. Which, if you know Carl, you know why. But we knew right away we were getting married. We weren't messing around. We didn't want to waste time putting our kids through uncertainty and doubt or confusion. They've been through enough. It was clear to us that we fit and we wanted to be together, and so we decided to get married 6 months later on June 15th, our new day. Both our spouses had passed on the 14th, and we met on the 15th. So that it was the week we got married. God had made beauty from ashes for us. Another God detail, remember that health insurance that was popping up for me in that worry window? That was up the week we got married. God is so good. He didn't just stop showing his hand in our lives once we were married. People were watching. They're still watching to see how this would work, to see how the kids would adjust. Elsa was calling me mom, and Aubrey and Haley and Charlie were calling Carl dad long before we even got married. We didn't force or even suggest that. They just did it. And we continue to grow stronger every day as a family. They all adore Carl, and the kids have been best friends since day one. Most people don't even know we're a blended family. which is kind of fun to surprise people with. There's so many more details, lots of little details. We've been paying attention, but since we're short on time, I'll skip to one of my favorites. Now, it was put on both of our hearts to grow our family together. I love babies, and being the oldest of 5, I always secretly wanted 5. On a pastor's salary, my husband was a little worried about that, so we stopped at 3. But God knew my heart, and it's crazy. But Carl, who had just took on 3 kids and was now an amazing father of my kids and loved them like his own, was willing to even have another. My heart was just overjoyed. God knew my heart, and I had the chance to have 5. So, of course, we started very quickly trying. I didn't have to try with the other one, so I thought, oh, this is going to happen really quickly. No worries. I figured I'd just get pregnant right away. 1 month passed. Nope, not pregnant. The next month passed. I think I went through $25 to $30 for pregnancy tests, thinking I was pregnant. But 6 months, a year and 6 months later, we finally were. When we scheduled the C-section, which because the others were C-sections, this one had to be. Another detail in God's amazing story and his timing was this precious baby was conceived in December, the month Sarah had passed, and would be born in September, the month Dustin passed. For us, this was full circle. This was healing, and just another detail that showed that the Lord was in it and that he would continue to bring beauty from ashes. We chose to name him Caleb because Caleb followed the Lord wholeheartedly, even when he didn't see how things were going to work out. When others couldn't see past the giants in the land, Caleb knew his God had a plan. He knew God would lead them, provide for, and protect them. We need to trust that he is doing the same with us. Life keeps going. The hard stuff, it keeps coming. But God is faithful still. His mercies continue each day. We just have to stay in today to get his strength. And remember all the times he's been faithful. When you rely on him moment by moment and day by day, you get to see him in these details. I know God's not done with our story. And if he did all of this for me, he will most definitely do this for each and every one of you. It's funny how in life there are so many things that impact us, but I find it's how we react to these things that truly show what team we're on, where our faith lies, how strong our foundation is. It's not the initial impact. It's how we walk through it going forward that can bring God glory and honor to him and his word, his promises. And then we get the peace and the strength to keep walking through it. Before I go, I just wanted to encourage everyone here to look around you and find someone to connect with today. I was amazed. I went home so excited last night after Danielle's talk and our panel. It was just so encouraging to me. I know you kept saying this word isn't super encouraging, but for me it was. I couldn't sleep because God's word is exciting and it's life-giving and just to hear what everybody talked about and how it's all God's put it all together and we haven't planned everything together. But life doesn't stop coming, and I didn't walk down this road alone. I had a solid core of women to lift me up and encourage me in the Lord. Whether it's an older woman to disciple and pour into you, or a younger woman for you to pour into, this is God's design for us. We need each other. And we need others, what others have to offer, and they need what we have to offer. So I would encourage each and every one of you to find someone to do life with and to learn with. So thank you very much for letting me share today.